How fast can SAVITAR, the god of speed, run? Don't blink. Science behind SAVITAR. I'm not what you call an avid watcher of the Flash TV show, but I'm certainly interested in its newest villain. In all seriousness, SAVITAR is pretty dang awesome. I think the coolest thing about him, aside from his appearance, is probably how they show his super speed. It just reminds me of everything quantum. It's a new, fresh take on the idea of the Speed Force. But Speed Force isn't exactly what we're covering in this video. We're going to try to determine the speed that SAVITAR travels at in the show, at least from what we've seen so far of him. So determining SAVITAR's speed is no easy task. And before you ask, I know they have this satellite scene here where they're showing the rate that SAVITAR is running at, but it doesn't give us a unit of measure. It might be square miles, but ultimately we can't say for sure. So we're not going to go with that. We're going to have to do a lot of estimating here, so just bear with me. The scene in which we see SAVITAR travel the clearest is this tiny little bundle of frames right about here. His starting point is right about here when he's about to break out of the ice, and the end point we'll use is here. The last frame we really get a glimpse at his entire body. We can't even really see the whole body, but you can tell it's right around that area. So how are we going to use these tiny frames to determine SAVITAR's speed? Well, look at it like this. We can use one single frame of reference right here with Barry's height itself. The actor for the Flash, Grant Gustin, will be our frame of reference for our measurements. Now, believe me, I tried to do percentages of body ratio, but everyone's is slightly off and it would only lead to more assumptions than the ones we're about to make. So I think this way would actually be more precise than that way. Let's take this picture of Grant and compare it to the Flash we see in the SAVITAR shot. Grant Gustin is about 6 feet 2 inches tall, and unlike the Flash in this scene, the picture shows him standing erect. So let's scale him to about the Flash's size in the scene, and see how much taller the Flash would be compared to SAVITAR if he wasn't kneeling. If Barry wasn't kneeling, he looks about the same height as SAVITAR himself. However, this is totally a matter of perception. SAVITAR is standing in front of Barry, or in the case of this camera shot, behind him. Now, it's difficult to estimate exactly how much taller SAVITAR would be if he were next to Barry, but we can try to make a comparison anyway. We take SAVITAR's form and give him a little more height, and place him next to Grant here. Based on other scenes that we've seen the two of them interact in, this looks about right. Now, let's compare those heights. Grant's skull is probably right around here, seeing as how the hair might add a few inches to his stature. We can see here that based off of this, SAVITAR, when he's not slightly bent down, is a considerable amount taller than Barry. Again, this fits pretty well with what we've seen so far in the show. We're going to use this line here to represent the distance between SAVITAR and Grant's heights. Doing a bit of matching, we can actually see that this line is about a foot long, making it an almost exact match with Grant's own proportions. Based off of this visual, we can estimate that SAVITAR is about 7 feet 2 inches tall, or approximately 1 foot taller than the Flash, when both stand fully erect. Now that we know how tall SAVITAR is, we can use that foot-long line to calculate the distance from Barry to SAVITAR in this shot. The angle of the shot is a bit off, but looking at it, we can say that SAVITAR and Barry are about 1.33 feet from each other, or about 1 foot 3 inches. Now, let's set up both the shots we're using, make them equal in proportion to each other, and use that line once more to see the distance between our endpoint and our starting point for SAVITAR. It happens in pretty much the blink of an eye, but lining them up and using our estimated measurements, we can see that SAVITAR travels about 6.5 feet in this span of time. Now, all we need to know is that span of time. Luckily, this is a video, so it's not that hard to calculate time. SAVITAR travels this distance in about half a second, give or take a few milliseconds. Again, this is all pretty much a rough estimate, keep in mind. So now we implement the speed formula. Often used in physics and the study of motion, the speed formula states that to calculate something's speed, you must divide the distance that the object has traveled by the time it took to travel that distance. That's not quite the process itself, but it's what it ends up looking like. It's weird, the outcome isn't exactly division, because there's conversion in the different units of measure. For this video, we're going to calculate SAVITAR's speed in miles per hour. And, doing that math, we find that SAVITAR has the ability to travel an astonishing and approximate 864 miles per hour. So there you have it. Again, it's not SAVITAR's top speed, and it's a rough estimate, but the rate at which SAVITAR chooses to run is about 864 miles per hour. That would certainly make him look like a god of speed, huh? Well, let's see this dude do pizza delivery.